Welcome to the weekly movie rundown for the week of July 1st. Yes, summer's rolling along. It's midsummer. We've got barbecues. We've got hot dogs. We've got, well, it's the week of the 4th of July. We've got patriotism. That's right. This week is 4th of July, and we've got fireworks, and we got fun. We got a few movies this week that are coming out. One of them, The Known Unknown, which is a Donald Rumsfeld story, kind of ties into the political angle, and we have some other fun stuff that's coming out. So in just a couple minutes, we'll get right into it. This also is going to cover the movies that are coming out in theaters this week. So we have a pretty full lineup. Let's get right into it.
Let me put up this next memo.
You want me to read this?
Yes, please.
All generalizations are false, including this one. There it is.
Rumsfeld survived Watergate with reputation intact.
Possible vice presidential running mate with President Ford.
Questions about Rumsfeld are whether he's too ambitious playing second fiddle to Reagan.
The credit belongs to people who are carped at and criticized and said, oh my goodness, you're warmongers. And we need to understand how we got to where we are. Who do we want to provide leadership in the world? Somebody else?
When Shakespeare wrote history, the motivating force was character defects, jealousies, etc., etc., etc. Maybe Shakespeare got it wrong.
Maybe he had it right. Governor Reagan decided to have George Bush to be vice president.
It seems to me that if that decision had gone a slightly different way, you would have been future president of the United States.
That's possible.
How do you think that they got away with 9/11? It seems amazing in retrospect.
Everything seems amazing in retrospect.
Stuff happens. And free people are free to make mistakes and commit crimes and do bad things. They're also free to live their lives and do wonderful things.
And you have to pick and choose. Well, to the extent you pick and choose and you're wrong, the penalty can be enormous. Subject: unknown knowns. That is to say, things that you think you know, that it turns out you did not.
So clearly, Donald Rumsfeld here is looking to rewrite his own history, or perhaps a perception. But there, this gentleman went back quite a ways in history and touched upon a lot of administrations. And even in the trailer, I thought it was fascinating to think of the reality of the fact that it had Reagan chosen him as his running mate. The extreme likelihood that he would have been president after Ronald Reagan, but what that really points to is anybody that had been his running mate would have likely been the next president of the United States. So this seems like a good story to maybe watch. Obviously, it is going to be Rumsfeld's version of it. I don't know that he got complete autonomy on this, though. I think I read some stuff where the director may not have had the same slant. In fact, I think that the director was quoted as saying he did not like Rumsfeld after doing this movie. So I don't know, for what that's worth, that might be one to go watch just to see maybe what sort of bend was put on it.
It's interesting, though, because there are people who think, here's a guy who, met Eisenhower as a congressman, right?
I was running for Congress, exactly.
And worked for Ford and Nixon and Reagan and both Bushes. And there's still those people out there that think, Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney are actually lizards. Who, I mean, literally, there's people that think they're lizards from outer space.
Yeah, that's true.
Who eat human flesh. I don't know if anybody's ever asked you directly, sir, but are you a lizard?
I don't think
Are
he's
you
a lizard.
actually? Can you just please give that a straight answer? Are you a lizard person?
Louis a
Let
little
him answer.
left-leaning,
No,
sir.
I'm not. Let him answer. Are you a lizard?
Here's the short answer. I'm in New York City. I walk down the street. People walk up, shake hands, stop me. They want an autograph.
He's a lizard.
Want to get
I'd be terribly remiss if I didn't include that last little excerpt, which is actually from the Opie and Anthony show. They had Louis C.K. in, and he did about 20 minutes where he repeatedly insinuated that Donald Rumsfeld is, in fact, a lizard. It was quite interesting and sort of very funny. He never actually answers whether or not he's a lizard, and I have a strong suspicion he doesn't address it in the known unknown. At any rate, you can get this movie on DVD this week. The next movie I'm going to tell you about is one that I'm completely fascinated about now, not so much because of the story itself, but because of the story behind the story to some extent. The movie I'm talking about is called The Lunchbox, and this is actually a subtitled movie. It is Indian-based. It's the story takes place in Mumbai. Essentially, there is a mistaken delivery in Mumbai's famously efficient lunchbox delivery system connects a young housewife to an old man in the dusk of his life as they build a fantasy world together through notes in the lunchbox. Gradually, this fantasy threatens to overwhelm their reality. This is kind of like, this is strange to me on so many different levels. I didn't know this existed, first off, and so the first thing I had to do was go do some background stuff via the good old Wikipedia to find out about this Mumbai delivery system. It's there's the word Dabawala, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly or even close to correctly, but essentially this is a person in India that goes and delivers lunch boxes from home to presumably male spouses in the workplace on a daily basis. And this is an actual service that exists and has existed since the 1890s. So you get your lunch prepared by your wife mid-morning, and you pay somebody, a relatively small fee, and they take these your lunches by bike and take them to your spouse at work. It's fascinating because it underscores a great many differences in society, obviously, because you have to be close enough to be able to bike to get your stuff to your spouse. So it indicates that a lot of people work very close to home. I, for one, have probably spent most of my life at least 30 miles away, and that would be a hell of a bike ride. But that being said, this story obviously is the backdrop for a story that is essentially a woman who has a husband that pays no attention to her, and this normally incredibly efficient system of lunch delivery somehow gets mixed up, and he gets the wrong lunch, and there was a note in it, and then the note proceeds to take on a life of its own, and apparently I guess she starts creating two lunches. I'm not exactly sure how that the actual thing works out, but this is like a very slow form of, I don't know, Skype or something online. I mean, couldn't they just get a couple of phones and text each other or something? I don't know. So it's a very cute way to do something that we're all kind of, I guess everybody's kind of familiar with in essence of that type of building a fantasy world and in this case, people needing more than they're getting where they are and all that stuff. And so I guess there's probably a really fascinating story behind it. But to me, I just keyed on, hey, I could get my lunch delivered to me. I mean, that's kind of cool because then that's one of the biggest things is you got to think about where you're going to go to lunch and Fortunately, I work in a big city in Philadelphia, so I can have a lot of choices. But I remember in days when I didn't have so many choices, that was pretty rotten. One thing I did think was funny, and this will be the last thing I put in here about this particular movie, was they said one of the reasons why they choose to do this is that they think, obviously the food and stuff is cleaner. But I don't know if I would completely feel that way if I knew that my stuff that I just made was going to be slapped on some kid's bike and he was going to run it through all the back alleys in the street to get there faster. I don't know if that takes away from it just slightly, but I guess it's keep it closed and it's all good, and you got your healthy food and whatever you want. I do like Indian food, so that wouldn't mind having that delivered to me on a daily basis personally. Anyway, that one is now out. It's on DVD this week, and it would be one I'd be interested in seeing. Okay, the final movie I'm going to talk to you about this week, because this is really it for the week for the most part, is a movie called Afflicted. This is it's one that I'm on the fence about a little bit. I'll give you the synopsis. Best friends Derek and Cliff set out on a trip of a lifetime. Their plan to travel to the ends of the earth, see the world, and live life to the fullest. But the trip soon takes a dark and bloody turn. Just days in, one of the men shows signs of a mysterious affliction which gradually takes over his entire body and being. Now, thousands of miles from home in a foreign land, they must race to uncover the source before it consumes him completely. Footage meant to be travel memories may now become evidence of one of the most shocking discoveries ever captured on film. So it is a horror story, and the thing I think I dislike about it, which maybe was, obviously there's probably reasons behind doing that, is that it's done on we're recording something and it's all going to be shot from, first person little video camera perspective, which I would think probably lends itself to being able to being less costly, when you build that into the concept of the movie. I don't like those types of things, where it's a first-person shaky cam crap. Didn't seem like it was horrible shaky cam, but there was some of it, and some of the tricks that they use in that realm are in there. It does look like they did a good job with the special effects that they did. They looked pretty good. There's some good scenes of this guy, having some transformations, etc. in the clip. So it's not one I'm going to object to completely. It's found footage though. So it's so there's some of that in there, but I don't know. It got kind of a lukewarm Metascore out there, and it's there, and there's not a lot to look at this week. So if you're into horror, this is not a bad one. This is actually pretty decent as far as those go in terms of production value, even though it's found footage. So maybe go give it a try.
Let's move on to a movie now that's one of the most brilliant, weird, and unusual American documentary films I've seen in a long time.
Roger Ebert was the definitive mainstream film critic in American cinema.
He has been writing for half of the history of feature films. Roger was a mature writer early on.
He's written over a dozen books.
He wrote a novel.
He won a Pulitzer Prize.
How on earth did Roger Ebert write Beyond the Valley of the Dolls?
Boobs.
Beyond the Valley. This is a title.
Roger was good at dishing, but he also could take it.
He is a nice guy, but he's not that nice.
It's Thriller Week on Siskel and Ebert in the movies, and we